Kevin here with Notes on Iowa, and today we're talking about Part 3, Day 1 of my 2021 walk across Iowa. And Part 3 allowed me to cross the 300-mile mark, heading towards my final total of 371 by the time I made it up to the Minnesota-Iowa border and Spirit Lake, largely along the Des Moines River, as I sought to compare my own observations with those of the 1835 Iowa Dragoons. So come with me on Part 3, Day 1, as I move from McKnight's Point up through West Bend and then on to Robert Mulroney Wildlife and Recreation Area. So those of you who've been following along know I had to cut short Part 2, Day 9 because of rain, and boy, did it rain again on Part 3, Day 1. I was soaked all day from the jump, but no thunderstorms like on Part 2, Day 9, so I was in for it. I headed up T15, or Highway 15 into Kossuth County, adding Iowa's tallest county to those I had crossed, and officially, if you colored in the map of counties, I had made it across Iowa in one sense. But I was just out in the rain, trying to make it to West Bend. I was very determined after falling short the previous time to do my best to get there, and eventually, after about 5 very soggy, waterlogged miles, I made it to West Bend and headed through town. I had seen the large grain elevator from miles away, and finally arrived at this great buffalo statue that's right in front of this big grain silo, and that was a nice place to make it to. Rain still falling lightly, and alongside the buffalo are a few other interesting things. The first West Bend post office, as well as a converted or reconstructed sod house that represents how early American settlers or other settlers kind of lived in the area. As the rain continued to fall, I decided to keep making progress. I was secretly hoping, check the radar, see if the rain might stop soon, and it kept looking like maybe. So I kind of dawdled in West Bend, thinking I would get a clean change of socks at least, to hopefully protect my feet a little bit. I made my way through downtown, pretty quiet on the rainy morning. Was eventually heading to the north end of town, to the Grotto of the Redemption, which I could feel the redemption at this point. Because it is the place I was supposed to finish Part 2 and was headed back for Part 3. And arriving there was really pretty exciting, even though the rain wasn't going my way. But the Grotto is incredible. Many of you have likely been there. If you haven't, you should get to West Bend. They host over 100,000 visitors a year to view this incredible connection of 9 different grottos made out of different types of minerals and precious stones, and just a really kind of incredible labor of love by Father Davenstein. He was a man that devoted his life after he almost died of pneumonia to building this incredible thing. And these grottos, it's supposed to be the largest in the world. I mean, you can just see this incredible handcrafted kind of beautiful legacy that was left behind by a man who was really committed to staying by his pledge to honor the Virgin Mary if she interceded for him while he had pneumonia. On this day, I was making it in the rain, excited to get to the top, also knowing that I had a few, probably like 15 more miles to go on the day, hoping that the rain might stop while I was there. So I really took some time to reflect, think about the journey so far, think about how things might go over the next few days, and just really kind of take in somebody else doing something kind of interesting and different. And so as I finished, I made it to the top of the grotto, and then eventually just took a series of photos and videos, looked around a little bit, eventually flew the drone, and then started to think about the rest of the day. So while I was there, I also changed shoes and socks. A big deal when you get your feet wet and you're walking or running long distances, you can be in for all sorts of problems. And I'd been very fortunate over the first 300 miles of the journey to not have any foot issues. I prepared well. I thought about the things I needed to do. And Part 3, this was going to become the greatest challenge. So leaving the grotto, I did leave in peace, still feeling pretty good with a fresh pair of socks. But as I headed north out of West Bend, I was in for a little trouble, or at least I was starting to build. One of the things I thought was pretty interesting is the first time I saw Minnesota Town advertised on one of the highway signs. But I eventually turned off 15 and headed back onto gravel and towards the Des Moines River. I did see probably more hog confinements than people on this particular day, really deep in kind of the lonely agricultural northwestern part of Iowa, where there are quite a few people. Stopped on the railroad tracks to take a look back at West Bend in the elevator in the rain. And just continued to press on. So a wild rose that was getting soaked as well along, and actually right by there I found a license plate that fell off somebody's car. So if you're from Palo Alto County and missing a license plate, let me know. I think I have it. But I just continued on down the road, trying to make the best of it, try to not kind of let the rain get to me, and just kept hoping that the sun would eventually clear. One of the things I was looking forward to at this part of the day was I was getting close to the Des Moines River, and finally I made it. I had not seen the Des Moines since I had left it about 2 weeks prior near Bradgate, and it was great to get back to the west part of that and take a look at kind of the river. And the river was growing at this time. It was already up from where I'd seen it in drought stages earlier in the summer, and was continuing to kind of just gather water, which I know farmers throughout the area are very grateful for. It was incredible how much corn grew during this week I was out on the road. Saw this former bar converted into a house, thought that was interesting, and then saw a little bit of blue sky and it stopped raining for just a second, enough time for me to text my wife and say, hey, it finally quit raining on me. And then I had to send a follow-up text almost immediately. I said, oh, it's back. And I continued on making it towards kind of this wildlife area with restored prairie and hardwood forest along the Des Moines River, also a boat ramp at Robert Mulroney. It's public hunting ground if you're interested in a really good bird habitat. And I just continued to kind of push there. I was feeling actually pretty good, happy to be out, happy to have made it through West Bend, but also was maybe sowing the seeds of later destruction as my feet really started to blister by the end of the day, and that was going to be an issue that we'll talk about in the next part 3, day 2, and the rest of the videos of the way, because it was a pretty tough last 4 days. But I made it to the Des Moines River, stopped, and was able to call it a day. Part 3, day 1 had offered me a little bit of redemption as I made it up to West Bend and through the grotto, and was able to continue on just stacking up those miles. As I got into northwestern Iowa, seeing fewer sites, but there's all sorts of interesting things out there. And if you know of things that maybe I missed, maybe things that I have talked about a little bit, but you've got good sources related to them, please pass them along. I'm into a research-intensive part of this project now, where I'm starting to work on a longer-form book project, as well as some articles for different publications. So if you have things that might be of interest, let me know. People make this project better every day, and that's been one of my favorite things about Notes on Iowa, as I've worked on this over the course of the 2021 summer. I appreciate you taking the time to reach out with insights. I really am grateful you took time out of your day to watch the video. So, thanks for watching.
There's a lot of good history about Iowa. A lot of people don't even know about it.